We've been doing this for a little while now, and I'm still not used to it. I have to say, not actually being in a shared physical space with you guys is very strange. Um, I I understand that. Well, for instance, in my clergy group, there are well a couple of people. One person in particular is quite adamant that this is the wave of the future, and this person has gone so far as to perform a home leader ordination uh, over the internet, never having met the person face to face, except by the medium of an electronic device. I presume the next step is someone's going to do Dharma transmission by the internet, if that in fact hasn't happened already. And I don't know what to think about that, except that I don't want to do it. I was I saw somebody brought up a Zen story in one of our meetings, and this involves the Tang Dynasty master Shuang, and um, this is sort of the flip side of what I was just saying. Shuang was in the abbot's room, and a member of his community was outside, right outside Shuang's window, and he couldn't see Shuang. So he calls out. He says, "Teacher, how come you're so close and I can't see you?" And Shuang replies, "Nothing in the universe is concealed." Oh, I timed that just so when the sun is coming out now. So that is indeed the other side of what I was complaining about. Nothing is concealed, and yet, as my first teacher said, different is different. So I don't think it's not quite right to pretend that, you know, this doesn't represent a kind of a ripple in the stream of our being together. The Dalai Lama, His Holiness, the other day apparently said something like, this was in English. He speaks English perfectly well. He doesn't like to. But he said something like, 7 billion people need a sense of connection. It's like, yes, that's true. I usually look at that a little differently. And because if you say that, then people will start hunting for a sense of connection. And I don't think that's very helpful, actually. For me, I usually advise that we give up habitually thinking that we have no connection. Since the connection is established already. And as Sri Shuang said, nothing in the universe is concealed. But our habit is, of course, to think that we're all, we're all separate billiard balls rolling around on the billiard table of the universe, colliding with each other. Well, I guess it's more like a pool table because they're holes. And periodically, a ball will disappear by falling into a hole. And then someone will have to put them back on the table. That's our story, is that they'll disappear and then they'll miraculously reappear on the table and start rolling around again. This is what we call rebirth. But in that view, the theme of separation is like uppermost and constant. And it's nothing but a habit of mind. So I try to pay pretty close attention, and when I am indulging in that, to let that go and to banish it if I need to. And let the resident truth be that nothing in the universe is concealed. That beings are inseparably connected. And that I don't mean to be disrespectful, but a complication of that is that most of you think you know what that feels like. Most people think, well, if beings are all connected, I'd feel that, and I know what that feels like. It would feel like, I don't know, like when I took ecstasy the last time, or something. But that is not how it works. So if people are striving for a feeling of connection, I think they're going to be frustrated and depressed. So I would just, if I could ask His Holiness about that, I think he'd probably agree and say, well, I didn't mean that that's something people have to get to. I just meant that if there is a lack people feel in their lives that they're kind of vaguely aware of, it's that. It's the lack of a sense of connection. And Sri Shuang's comment that nothing in the universe is concealed is the same truth. It's kind of both a strength and a weakness of the Chan and Zen tradition that there's kind of a pretense that there's some big secret, and that the ascended masters are in possession of this secret, and to be a successful Zenist, you too must acquire the secret. Now, if that were true, it would not be true that nothing in the universe is concealed. Maybe it would be true that nothing in the universe is concealed except the big Zen secret. That's concealed. Too bad for you. that is not so. And because of our unfortunate habits of mind, we have to practice over and over again no concealment, no separation. It's not enough to tell ourselves over and over again. We have to practice it. And so we have inherited the magnificent practice of zazen, which embodies no separation, no concealment. And over a period of time, sometimes I guess feels like a long period of time, we allow that practice to brings forth from our very cells, our very body-mind, the truth of how things actually are. That's the secret. And as we keep saying, now you have it, so keep it well. I've been watching a series of YouTube videos with what's his name?
Bob Thurman?
No, not this time. Not Bob Thurman. Oh heck, where is he? Sorry. Jay Garfield, the skilled philosopher, Jay Garfield, who has a long series, pretty much about like mind and emptiness and Yogacara Buddhism, something. A series of talks he was going to be giving in person at Stravasti Abbey in California, but then of course things blew up, and so he gave them over the internet, and they exist as a series of recordings, which I quite recommend if you're interested in that sort of thing. But a few lectures in, he tells a story about how he met his teacher, whose name I'm afraid escapes me. Something Tibetan. Anyway, years and years ago, he went to India to pursue his studies, and he brought his family, which his wife and I think 2 kids, and they went to Bodh Gaya, and this was quite a while ago. And so Bodh Gaya was basically this dusty little backwater. It looks like nobody was there, except maybe this, I think the Tibetans had set up this institute for philosophical studies or something there. And that's, he was going to go and hang out with them. And basically the minute they got there, I think they arrived, in the middle of the night or something, in a rattle trap old van, and no sooner do they get to their accommodations, and Jay succumbs to a quite quite bad fever. He gets quite sick, just almost immediately. And there was no doctor around. And he had a pretty high fever. And so that lasted like a couple of days or something, 3 days. And eventually he came out of it. And there was a gentleman there in the room with him. Who had been like bathing his face and head, with water and a cloth, and actually most of his upper body been administered to by this person who was in a kind of a monkish garb, and eventually he was happy to see that Jay had come back to consciousness, and he said, great, I'll see you later. And Jay's wife was there, and so he asks her, who was that guy? And his wife says, I don't know. But he's been here for like 3 days. So that guy was Jay's teacher. Who had been looking after him and didn't even know who he was. So not only did Jay not know who that guy was, that guy didn't know who Jay was. He just knew he was sick. And that turned out to be so-and-so Rinpoche, whoever it is. So I kind of stopped watching those lectures after that story, because in a way I felt like that was the point. Not so much the quite elaborate philosophizing. Not that you shouldn't go ahead and listen to those talks, because they're quite interesting in their way, but I kind of felt like, that was the point. And the Rinpoche was operating from his unimpeded connection with all beings, which, as I said, was already established. It was not something he had to cook up. So in a manner of speaking, that is the point of our practice. Not the sense of connection, okay? The connection itself. Not some particular feeling you can arrange to have, although you may have from time to time some feeling. But rather giving a body to the connection. To the recognition that, as I guess I said last time, each of us, each of you, is unrepeatably unique. I think I said that last time. So that there never has been and never will be any being quite like you in any universe, anywhere. But I failed to say, I should have said, in addition to that, well, actually, I'll tell another little story, and then I think I'll shut up. One nice thing about this arrangement is that I feel I can get away with my talks being even shorter than they usually are. So I'm happy about that. Not because, I don't want to give talks to you guys. It's just that especially without our shared physical presence, it can feel very belabored. I start to feel like Stephen Colbert. I don't know if you've seen him on YouTube. So he has these presentations he's calling A Late Show with Stephen Colbert, where it's like in his living room, and his son or somebody is doing the filming. So it's kind of I don't really like doing that, but it doesn't matter. So the story is very simple, and this is a footnote to the remarkable uniqueness of each being. I was at Green Gulch Farm years ago, and there was a little group of us with my teacher, and we were outside, and there had been some rain, so the vegetation out there, which is quite lush, was all very, very wet, and it was in the springtime, and we were standing next to a fruit tree, which was kind of just next to the driveway by the shop down there at the foot of the driveway, and it was in bloom. And while we were waiting there, I forget what we were waiting for, but we were waiting, the sun struck the tree. And it burst into light with all of the droplets of rain reflecting the light back and forth. And so I said to my teacher, I pointed to the tree, and I said, can this take place without the reliance on a fixed self? And he said, yes. So that's the other part of the remarkable uniqueness of every being, that it does not rely on a fixed self. And that, of course, is also the key to the unassailable connection among beings. If there were a fixed self, forget it. That would not work. But since there isn't, we're cool. So it's miraculous enough that each of us is a being that has never been repeated and will never be in its uniqueness throughout the universe. And the fact that that does not depend on a fixed self is even more miraculous. So maybe if you don't know that you can, or if you think that you can't, I'm here to tell you that you can wholeheartedly agree with Shushwan that nothing in the universe is concealed. You don't need any special credential. But I would suggest that that be what I don't know. Those Chinese period movies, kung fu movies, in the Tang Dynasty, when you were traveling, you had to carry like a kind of a pass with you, or you'd get in trouble. And I'm suggesting that the pass you carry be nothing in the universe is concealed. And you, well, I almost said you make that your own, but no, you let that be your own. Okay, well, our neighbors off to the east there are getting noisy, so as they usually do around this time. So maybe now's a good time for me to shut up and see if somebody else would like to say something. If so, you can wave at your camera, and our host, I'm not sure who today's engineer is. I'm all confused, but if that, oh, yes, but there was some difficulty before, so whoever can unmute will please unmute.
Everyone should be able to unmute themselves now to ask questions.
Oh, easier yet. Okay.
I have maybe it's not a question, but just, what do you think about that? I lost you. Where are you on my screen? Here, there you are. Sorry. I'm looking for you. And I don't have it on speaker view, so I see all these faces. You were talking about, the feeling, like, this feeling of connection and people seeking that. And maybe I think they've had that when they've done ecstasy or something like that. And I find in talking with people, it's hard to convince them of connection or anything else if they don't have certain feelings. It's a hard sell.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And unfortunately, one of our not very helpful habits is that we're actually waiting for that feeling. We're waiting for something. As what's his name? As David Byrne sings, and the Talking Heads, one of those songs, it says, "Everyone is waiting for instructions." It's like everyone's waiting for instructions, which is completely unnecessary. But you're right. Most people will resist the notion that they don't need to feel like they're on ecstasy all the time. So you got to have a different angle. And one, it's not really an angle, or I don't know, maybe it is, but it is possible to be with someone and in your own being, you are affirming no separation or deep connection or something like that, and you don't say anything about it. You're just letting that be, and that will affect how you are with that person or those people. And they, on some level, my trust is some part of them, or as we say, the one who is not busy, or the one whose hearing can't be hindered will hear it. And they may have some response to you, like after you say goodbye, they'll walk off thinking, that was kind of a cool person. Or that was a nice interaction. What was that guy's name? And these sorts of experiences will affirm no separation on some level over time. And I think, again, if His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, were here and I could ask him, he'd say, yeah, that's pretty good. That'll really help. Yes, we know the only permanent antidote to greed, hatred, and confusion is perfect enlightenment. Yes, we know that. And we might say something like, in the meantime, there are certain things we can do that are helpful. Chuck's on.
Oh, hello?
Hi.
Isn't that enlightenment itself already?
Would you say again?
The fact that you do this practice in the meantime, this as opposed to enlightenment, isn't that already enlightenment?
Yes, sir. You got me.
Oh, okay. Okay, you didn't say that vocally, but I heard it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, does Linda have a question? Linda is the small furry creature there.
Linda wants to know what there is to be concealed at all.
Well, I would say good for her. She gets an extra treat today. Anybody else? See, Jeffrey, I see you're unmuted. Would you like to ask a question or make a comment?
I didn't really have a question or anything to add.
Okay. Thank you. That's good.
Thank you.
Well, maybe now you're all convinced that now you have it, so keep it well. And therefore, we can go do some other stuff today.
Like have our council meeting. And
Like have our council meeting. When does that start? immediately?
We can have a brief bio break and then reconvene for council. Seems
Why don't we say at 20 till? Is that too long a break? That's like 12 minutes. Okay, so everyone again is invited to the council, and it will start at 20 to 11 and probably won't take too long. So, but if you don't want to commit any more of your Saturday to, online communication, that's okay too.
oh,
Yes.
and anyone who's local who would like some of the last harvest of the plum tree in the form of jam, let me know. You can let me know in the chat or send me a text or an email.
And it's the last harvest because our tree fell over. That tree is probably, I don't know what, 80 years old or something, and it finally collapsed. So it's going to have to be cut off. But it's quite striking to see this tree that's like this with all of these plums all over. It's quite extraordinary. Even in our demise, we bloom. It's kind of amazing.